Madam President.
Senator from Arkansas is recognized.
In a couple hours, Senator Schumer is bringing to the floor one of the most dangerous pro-crime, anti-cop U.S. nominees in American history. The Senate floor leader wants to ram through President Biden's extreme nominee to be the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, the current Suffolk County District Attorney, Rachael Rollins. In doing so, the Democrats are showing that they don't care about crime as a crime wave crashes across the country. They do not support law enforcement, and they have a wanton disregard for the safety and security of Americans. Now, it is true that we rarely have record votes on U.S. attorneys in the Senate. In fact, I think it's been 28 years. It is also true that Rachael Rollins is so radical that she is without precedent as a nominee to be the U.S. Attorney. Rachael Rollins is the very epitome of a Soros prosecutor, though it's generous to call her a prosecutor at all. For those of you who don't know, the term Soros prosecutor refers to the wave of so-called progressive political activists backed by wealthy liberal mega-donors like George Soros, who have run for local district attorney and state attorney positions throughout the country with the express purpose of igniting revolution and destroying our criminal justice systems from within. They have left a trail of death, pain, suffering, and misery in their wake. Chicago has already had more than 1,000 murders this year, 1,000 murders with a month to go. Philadelphia has already had more than 500, already an all-time record. Crime is so bad in San Francisco that they closed downtown on Black Friday to avoid gangs of armed robbers smashing into resale stores and stealing everything in sight. They closed it on Black Friday because Chesa Boudin, the radical Soros prosecutor in San Francisco, has helped a crime wave destroy public safety in San Francisco, so much that the liberals in that city have already announced a recall petition against him. And perhaps most notoriously, just last weekend in Waukesha, a career criminal with a rap sheet as long as your arm committed mass murder, one of the deadliest massacres in recent years, while he was out on $1,000 bail. $1,000 for a career criminal who consistently committed violent crimes for 20 years. And the Soros prosecutor in Milwaukee, who let him out, acknowledged that it may have been inappropriately low, but that is not the unintended consequence of these prosecutors. That is the intended consequence: to destroy our criminal justice system from the inside, to let violent repeat felons out immediately and not keep them on bail, and then to not charge them with the appropriate crimes, and then to reduce their sentences when they're convicted. What do they all have in common? They are all pro-criminal Soros prosecutors, just like Rachael Rollins, the first one to be nominated for U.S. Attorney. Now, she's not simply a Soros prosecutor. She's one of the most preeminent legal arsonists in the country. She's a founding member of an organization of Soros prosecutors called the Truth and Justice and Reconciliation Commission, which claims that the American justice system, and this is a quote, this is a direct quote, has been a cruel and oppressive force of injustice for all marginalized communities. And she also claims that this is again a direct quote, this isn't a bug in the system, a feature. It's operating exactly the way it was designed and built to function. That's her view of our criminal justice system. That is a cruel and oppressive force of injustice for marginalized communities. That's not a bug, that's a feature. That is textbook critical race theory. Rachael Rollins believes that the American criminal justice system is racist and rotten to its core. And the Democrats want to put her in charge of prosecuting criminals in the largest state in New England. Rollins hopes to destroy the criminal justice system from within. That's not hyperbole. She has not been shy about her views, until she was nominated for this office, of course. When asked why she became a prosecutor last year, she answered, again, this is a direct quote. I'm not making it up. You may find it hard to believe. These are her own words. Why she wanted to be a prosecutor, quote, I chose the system from the inside. Soon after being sworn in as District Attorney of Suffolk County, Massachusetts, she declared that she was going to battle against the U.S. Attorney on offenses like opioids, marijuana, and immigration. Just think about that. A newly elected prosecutor in the largest city of a state decided that her mission was not to stop criminals, not to protect innocent civilians, but to stop the U.S. Attorney in that state from prosecuting criminals, and now she wants that job for herself. I don't think so. Mrs. Rollins also published a list of 15 crimes that she would refuse to prosecute, except in special cases, sending the clear message to criminals that it was open season to commit these crimes. Among the crimes on Rollins' presumptive do not prosecute list are not just things like jaywalking, but things like drug trafficking with intent to distribute, including fentanyl, malicious destruction of property, criminal threats, breaking and entering, trespassing, resisting arrest, and more. This isn't an exercise of prosecutorial discretion in a case with exceptional circumstances. This is prosecutorial nullification. The legislature of Massachusetts passed criminal laws that prosecutors are elected to enforce, and she refuses to enforce them. What do you think she will do to our federal criminal laws? What do you think she will do to you if you're a homeowner in Suffolk County and someone trespasses on your yard and walks up to your window to see if you are home or not, and if you are not, they'll break and enter because you won't be prosecuted. And if you are home, well, they'll just walk off the lawn and wait until you leave, and you dial 911, and the police won't even answer because they know Rachael Rollins won't prosecute you. And this is the woman that Joe Biden nominated to be a U.S. attorney in this country. I don't think so. Rollins has tarred police officers as murderers, causing the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association to condemn her for, quote, undoubtedly inciting violence against the proud men and women of the Boston Police Department. Her response, naturally, was to accuse the Boston Police of white fragility. That's it, not a summary, that's an exact quote. She accused the Boston Police of white fragility. There's a word for what Mrs. Rollins trafficked in, and that word is racism, presuming that every officer in the Boston Police Department is guilty of white fragility, presumably the black and the Hispanic and the Asian ones too. The truth is that Rollins has nothing but contempt for the rule of law. If she is confirmed, the citizens of Massachusetts and New Hampshire and all of New England will suffer the dangerous consequences. We've already seen these consequences in her own county. In 2020, the first full year in which her policies have been enforced, Boston's violent crime rate surged, and the number of murderers skyrocketed by 38%. When Rollins took office, Suffolk County had the 5th highest opioid overdose death numbers in Massachusetts, with 39% fewer deaths than the leading county. By the end of 2020, not surprisingly, Suffolk County's opioid overdose deaths had increased by 32%. And Suffolk County had become the 2nd deadliest county for opioid overdoses. If Rollins' abysmal record is brought to Massachusetts as a whole, it also poses significant threat to the health and safety of the people of New England, especially New Hampshire, a threat that extends beyond the 100,000 Granite Staters who work in Massachusetts. Rollins' insane drug policies would worsen the drug epidemic, which is already ravaging New Hampshire. The opioid crisis, which is fueled by narcotics smuggled from Massachusetts, is responsible for over 80% of drug overdose deaths in New Hampshire. Cartels and traffickers use Boston and its ports as a staging ground to smuggle vast quantities of heroin and other drugs into New Hampshire. Rollins' failure to vigorously enforce federal drug laws in Massachusetts will severely harm families and communities, not just in her own state, but in New Hampshire and across New England. Rollins' appalling statements, actions, and records caused Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee to unanimously oppose her nomination. That is a nearly unprecedented action for a U.S. Attorney nomination. It's not one that we took lightly. By contrast, for example, Republicans have allowed President Biden's other 15 U.S. Attorney nominees across the country to go through committee with a simple voice vote. It goes to show that Mrs. Rollins is uniquely unfit for the role of U.S. Attorney and deserves no deference from the Senate and no confirmation. If the Democrats vote to confirm Rachael Rollins, they will be responsible for every action she takes. It's not a secret. It's right here in her record. And when crime spikes in Massachusetts and crime spikes in New Hampshire, Democratic senators who are on the ballot next year are going to answer for it. And I promise I will be there to make you answer for it if you vote for her today. And if you're a Soros prosecutor around the country watching this nomination today, and you think maybe you're next if Ms. Rollins is confirmed, maybe you can be the U.S. Attorney, maybe you can be the Attorney General in your state, I promise you, this will not be the start of a trend. I will stop at nothing to make sure none of you ever achieve higher office and none of you get reelected, because you are a danger to the families and the communities of this country. President Biden should immediately withdraw Mrs. Rollins' nomination and should consider submitting someone who would actually be a prosecutor rather than a pro-crime, defund the police activist to serve as the United States Attorney in Massachusetts. Madam President, I yield the floor.